the vertical conversation up and down, but it's the lateral conversation that needs to be strengthened, the conversation that you and I have with one another that empowers one another for action to move us forward versus the conversation up to the mayor and the president and so forth and so on to provide resources.
Wait, see, that's a misnomer. Up to the mayor? You mean down to the mayor?
Down to the mayor, up to the mayor. It's vertical, either way.
The mayor works for us.
That is correct, he does.
The alderman works for us in that ward.
And at the same time.
And they have a responsibility to do what their constituents want and need.
And we have a responsibility to do things for ourselves.
Yeah, but see, you've done the things for yourself. You hired those people for your protection. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. You hired them to serve and protect. Okay? But don't get me wrong. I understand where you're coming from, and I admire the fact that if you can get a Ride for Change, Ride for Hope into action, where kids are following you, kids are doing those things with the mini bikes, and they rather be into that type of environment instead of the negativity. That's great. But when you have this great force pulling them in the opposite direction, saying here's a tidbit, here's a reward. All you got to do is stand on this corner and sell dope and look menacing. Not telling them that somebody's going to come by and shoot them, and they're trying to frighten the community out.
We have to find ways to continue the we can conversation instead of the we can't until you help us conversation. And how do we strengthen the we can conversation? If there were resources, if we're asking for resources to continue the we can, that's good. But to empower the we can't, it's not happening. It's not necessary, and I think that's been part of the problem. The we can conversation needs to continue on with the steps that follow that agreement, that we can come together on something in a positive direction. And we need to come together on the issue of violence, because the decrease of violence is going to open up so much opportunity for all of us.
So listening to you, let me ask you a question. What did you think about the gun buy?
I think the gun buy is a good program, to the extent that it enables persons to get unwanted firearms out of their homes. I happened to be over at St. Sabina during the gun buyback program.
Are you harboring any illusion that the guy who carries a gun on the street is giving up his gun?
No.
The one who's doing the shooting, the one who's doing the killing, the one who's doing it?
Not at all. Not at all.
Oftentimes, let me tell you how plentiful these guns are. You tell me, well, somebody may break in your house and take it. Let me tell you how plentiful these guns are. Oftentimes, they'll shoot somebody and they go throw it in the river or in the lake. So in case you find this gun, if you find me, you're not going to find the gun. And without the weapon, you may not have enough evidence to convict me. So the gun is gone. They got another gun.
Yeah, well, I still think that the buyback program is a good program because it's more so a call to conscience.
Why?
There are over 4,000 persons that turn those goods in on a day.
BB guns, cap pistols.
Assault weapons, shotguns.
Yeah, you got to add a couple of assault weapons, a couple of shotguns, but that's nothing.
In comparison to the big number, it's not. But you've got to start somewhere.
In comparison to what we're looking for.
You've got to put those messages out there that help people to appreciate that there are options.
We're looking for the violence to stop. Anybody who turns in a gun is not violent. They're not a problem. Okay? I'm turning in a cap gun. I can get $10 for this cap gun that my son paid $2 for. That's all that did, because it said on the bulletins I saw, cap pistols, BB guns, the whole gamut, from $10 to $100. They're paying for that. So, like right now, they got this big thing about gun control, narcotics control. We know that's a misnomer. You can't control an inanimate object.
Well, yeah, guns don't kill folks. People with guns kill folks. We understand.
And the gun, it doesn't have a speaking voice to tell that person who wants it, no, you can't get me because I'm under control.
And that's why we propose Ride for Change, Ride for Hope. You know the old expression, this is how we roll?
Yeah.
Well, we have to change how we roll. And those are the messages that we're disseminating with the Ride for Change, Ride for Hope project, to stop the violence and seek alternative means to conflict resolution. We need to put inside of us what is absent, and that is the equipment to deal with issues relating to conflict. So that's the conversation I think that we should have and should be strengthened. Matter of fact, in some cases, I think that should be a curriculum in the Chicago public schools to empower these young folks to deal with those types of issues.
Okay. Well, see, now you've said something very key. You see, the reason I'm talking to you about this, Terry, because you have 6,800 organizations, 6,800 organizations around the country. That's a lot of power. That's a lot of power. That's a lot of power to move agendas and move things. And see, we got to get away from the superficial things that we're talking about. Superficial things like somebody picking up a gun, and off from a bunch of people who are bringing them in. That don't mean anything about crime. That's not going to stop crime. Not one. It's not going to stop one killing, one stick up, one crook carrying a gun on the street. It's not going to stop any of that. Because anybody who's using those guns for violent purposes or for nefarious purposes are not going to turn no gun in.
I think that we need to put our heads together and actually reach out. We talk about the problems, and that's okay to talk about the problems as long as we identify what those problems are. But we need to get off that subject of what the problem is and talk about creating some viable solutions.
Right.
And one thing I am helped to appreciate with the World of Soul motorcycle community, which was started just a little over 2 years ago. And we're already up to, as you have mentioned, 6,800 organizations and individuals involved in the project. It's a very humbling position to be in. It's been a very humbling experience. And I think more so than anything else, I'm really being helped to appreciate the accessibility of our governmental officials and many of our community organizations. I'm very thankful to Reverend Jackson for the access that he's given me and some of the consultations I've had there, and the King family for the sit down that I've had with them on some issues, the local aldermen as well. Folks want to be part of the solution, and oftentimes we find that we are not coming forth even when we have those solutions. If you have the capability to perceive a program that is workable, we need to get the conversation going on that particular subject and create that program and implement that program and be a part of an effective solution to the issue of violence, among other items.
Glad you mentioned Jesse. You know, Jesse Jackson is like a father to me. I used to travel around with him as his bodyguard.
Is that so?
Yeah.
And I'm glad you mentioned Inglewood, because it was in Inglewood where I was sitting on the stoop right there on the 6400 block of Inglewood back in the 70s. It had to be about maybe 9, 10, 11. I heard this voice coming down the street shouting, "I am somebody." kept resonating, reverberating. "I am somebody." And a lot of other voices were behind that voice. And they marched by the house, and we watched this, and this happened daily until on the third day. On the third day, myself and my little cousins, we got off the porch and we joined in on that march. Now,
when was that?
The march ended at the railroad tracks where the police were waiting with their riot gear, and the media was there. This was during the marches to Marquette Park.
Okay.
So that was my first civil rights experience as a young child. So we started the Ride for Change, Ride for Hope project during Barack Obama's campaign. It was actually called Bikers for Obama, Ride for Change, Ride for Hope. And now that Brother Obama is President Obama, we have dropped that portion of the project name and continued on with Ride for Change, Ride for Hope. But our first event left from Rainbow Push, and that's when I had an opportunity to finally connect with Reverend Jackson when we set out to partner with Rainbow Push in bringing forward that event. And it's been a great partnership to this date.
Yeah, I didn't get a rise out of you when I said he's like a father to me.
I think Reverend Jackson is like a father to hundreds of people.
But considering I'm about 4 or 5 years older than him,
Okay.
you know.